YouTube
No, it's
updated
9.
and said that
It is 9.
their
Yep.
streaming wasn't compatible with that version. Of course, that's the version we had.
Mhm.
And we got like a notice
Yeah.
that it wasn't compatible anymore.
Yeah.
And so that was the issue. Saying that with
Ready, okay. I'm ready. All right, call to order. It says 9:02 up there, but I think it's 9 o'clock, so call to order, Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, a nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Pledge of Allegiance, we've done roll call. We're all here.
Greg, missing.
For Mike?
Mike,
Mike and Greg.
Mike, busted.
Mike and Greg requested. Yes, I knew Greg last time was,
Mike did email me and ask and request for an excused absence for this meeting.
very good, okay. Public, there is no public today. We've been very lucky this year. I appreciate everybody that comes to our meetings, and but none today. Approval of minutes from April 21st, 2021. Anybody want to make a motion or any problems or questions about the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Bob Beasley, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I didn't see here a lot of ayes. Maybe everybody's being quiet today. All right, Mooringfield and staff report.
Austin Gilchrist, Town of Fort Myers Beach, Harbor Master. Everything seems to be running smooth. The field's emptying out. We still are doing quite a bit of pump outs. It has fallen back about to about 600 gallons a week. We've been pulling. We did have an issue with the pump out boat this month. It went in for service, so we missed, I think, a couple days of service there, but we went out and made up for the days that we didn't make it out into the field. The Lee County Sheriff's Department came through and they did boardings and checks on all the vessels. I think they ended up writing about 8 citations with a number of warnings as well. If you'll notice in the mornings coming over the bridge, everybody's anchor lights seem to be burning now, and the Anchorage field channel has been cleared out so that it is a straight line from marker to marker. That was accomplished by Lee County Sheriff's Department. I'm going to request that they come in and give a more detailed report on that service they did there. We did complete our systems cleaning. FWC did come out and inspect the field. We did pass inspection. They wrote their letter of recommendation for what I understand. Let's see what else. Did get some training done this month. We had one of our staff members go in and get his advanced dive training. I went ahead and got my master's license accomplished as well. So I got my master's captain's license.
All right. Oh, that's
So that's been done.
good deal.
Other than that, we're setting up for cleaning of the backfield as well. Just doing our cycle of cleaning in the back and then inspecting as well. The front field's been all completed. So other than that, there's anything else to report, Chelsea?
We have Chelsea O'Reilly, Public Works Director. We have 43 boats in the field as of, that's what DACWA says, as of 30 seconds ago. Beauty of technology. I do want to give kudos to the staff. You know, they do have dual roles, play two beach and maritime, cross-trained, and taking their own personal time to go and get training on their own accord, and just how that benefits the town. That's huge, and that's something we're striving towards. Getting more training, the ability to handle more stuff in-house and essentially save taxpayer dollars.
I have a question about the FWC inspection.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's for the land lease, right?
No,
No?
ma'am. That was for the federal Big P grant that we received. They had to come, they had to send their divers down and do an inspection and provide a report, and then now we are, they had some new staff, so I had to explain our reimbursement request yesterday to him, but hoping to get that $43,000 back shortly. They said that they're gonna review it with their supers and then, issue the check. So we should see that money back in our town coffers soon enough.
Now, we occasionally have, because I remember this after, I think it was Irma, we occasionally have inspections for our land lease, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's just sort of, is that sort of a random, or are they supposed to do it yearly, or?
I believe it's random.
Okay,
But they're pretty good at giving us a heads up and then trying, of course, to coordinate with Austin.
they have to go out with you guys, so you
Yes.
have to be
So
available to do
they
it.
just make sure that we are meeting all of the criteria set forth in the submerged land lease, signage, things like that.
Right.
So that's, yeah, the last one we had, knock on wood.
I think it was right after Irma, I remember,
Yes.
because there was some damage to the docks and a few things that I think I remember we talked about. So I just didn't know if they did a yearly one, or it was just sort of whenever they got around to it kind of thing.
And COVID,
Yeah, well, with COVID and stuff, it's different. Okay, anybody have any other questions about? Austin, I think you said that, you just say that they did all the inspections of the,
Of the
has
systems.
coastal engineering done inspections of the
Well,
moorings?
Yeah, staff is taking over the inspection, stuff
Okay.
like that, and then we give our report to coastal engineering of anything that is of concern.
Okay.
And then we get all of our recommendations from them how to go about fixing any issues that we come.
So they're no longer diving, or are they doing it like occasionally?
Yeah, on request
Because they
as
have,
well.
since they have the field, they're doing the field, they do it occasionally?
Yeah, occasionally upon request. It's not a standard that they go down anymore now that we've taken that over.
And you guys are doing it a couple times a year, or once a year?
We do it every 3 months.
Every 3
We
months,
like to go
okay.
down and keep the system. We noticed that with the growth, every 3 months, it seems to be the fastest way without having the calcium deposits grow up. We're mostly getting just seaweed and stuff like that.
Another thing that I know Austin is working on is the Seagrass Buoys at the south end of the island. We are responsible for those, so working with the town, with Coastal, on trying to configure a better setup. Operationally, it doesn't work as well with regards to maintaining and I think even cleaning. So trying to come up with a better configuration and setup to where it's easier to maintain. So that is on our to-do list this summer as well.
I had one thing, the end of the Palermo and Carolina Street Canal, there's a house on the bay, it would be the bayfront house right at the corner of the canal and everything on Carolina Street. There's a dinghy that's been underneath somebody tied it up there underneath the dock, and I noticed when I came home yesterday or the other day that it's stuck under the dock. Looks like it's about to sink. Looks like it has FL numbers on it. I couldn't tell. I haven't gone over there or anything, but I didn't know if that's something the town would want to look at, because the people have gone back up. I think they're Canadian. They've gone back up north. They probably don't know, but it's been there now for about 5-6 days that I recall seeing it anyway.
We'll put eyes on it and take any action if warranted.
Yeah, I just, I'm not sure why it's under there, but, yeah.
Thank you. We'll put eyes on it.
I have a question of these charts. Were
Out-
these on the
outward-
graphs?
Those charts were provided by your team member here.
Because my question was just if they were included in what you sent out and they were not.
No, they were
As if
not.
they were on another page that I didn't get to.
No, I only brought one copy of that.
Okay, can we get,
That's useful, or?
I like to see this one particularly. I like to see how we're stacking up against past years.
There were some errors in the ones I sent her to,
Okay.
we'll have to check and see if there are errors.
'Cause the daily one,
Can I just forward that?
Send them to me and I'll forward them along.
Okay. Will do.
this one I don't care a lot about, the daily one particularly. I mean, it's, I guess, interesting to see, because you see in the middle of the month, and I don't know how much information, but I do like this one that shows us how we're stacking up against other
I'll send
years.
that in a file that can be read to Chelsea, and she can put it out.
Okay. Am I the only one that has this one? or-
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass it around.
Are you going to give a abbreviated presentation of this during your, thank you.
During the next section, yes.
Any other questions for the staff report? Okay, expansion of the mooring field update.
So I just got word last Friday that the DEP approval is waiting for somebody to put their signature on it, and so it should be here. We're hoping by the end of this week for the expansion. We did submit the grant application to FBIP, so we're waiting, Florida Boating Improvement Program. We're waiting to see where and/or if we rank and are eligible for grant funding for that. So I think that'll probably happen sometime this summer or early fall on that grant application. In preparing for that, I have notified the town manager as we are in preliminary budget that what our grant match would be if that project did go forward. So that way we're prepared on that end budget-wise.
Bayside dock update, dinghy dock update?
We are waiting for the DEP grant, that signature.
Oh,
So they'll close that file and then we'll apply for that one, for the DEP grant, or for the DEP permit for Bayside Park. We do have rough budget numbers from a couple years ago when we were looking to apply for grant funding for the engineering side of it. So that dock, or that marginal pier with a marginal dock with a finger pier, rough budget numbers would run $425,000. So potentially looking at the difference between a grant and paying out of the town coffers is grant, it is required to be open to the public, whereas if you pay out of town coffers, you can charge like a user fee. So that's really the main difference in trying to figure out how to proceed with that. But it's in our sights. Bayside Park construction bids are due back sometime next week. Anticipated construction this summer.
Is that the one that is shown in this?
No, sir.
We'll be discussing that later.
Anything else? All right, let's go on to Upland Service Provider update.
So, town council, with regards to Bayside Park, town council said it is off the list of potential sites for the Upland services. That is why you do not see it included in this list. In this list, which, or in this presentation, which was presented to town council on Monday, this is very 10,000 foot, just options that we've identified. We've been working on and trying to identify options that are out there. Town council narrowed this list down further. That way we can focus our efforts on a handful of sites that they've narrowed it down to. I think they eliminated the Ops or Fort Myers Beach Fire Department's site as one of them.
4 and 6.
4 and 6, yes, thank you.
yeah.
Virginia as well because of some legal issues with that. So we can run through this slide. I'll go page by page with you like I did with town council. Of course, coastal engineering construction. I haven't had enough coffee this morning. Coastal engineering was hired to help review these sites with regards to engineering, any issues that we may have with permitting, things like that. So the second page is the overview sheet. And as you can see it as it pertains to the proximity to the mooring fields and even the proposed mooring field on here. So it starts at the north end of the island as one, and as you proceed south is how the numbers increase. So site 1 is the next page. This site, we're looking into even further. There may be more complications than that are on the cursory review with this site. It is $2.2 million. It's in between Pink Shell's properties. on the bay. If you flip to the next page, you'll see the aerial overview of that.
Are you saying there's more issues that might make it not available or not viable?
It would make it every site
challenging.
More challenging. Every site in
Has
this
challenges.
has challenges. Yes, and it all depends on how many challenges we want to overcome. Andy just told me only the properties narrowed down are included in this handout, so that'll help.
Right.
So, site number 1. Again, this is cursory review. We're going to start to go in depth into reviewing these sites even further, hoping to take the update to town council on June 7th. Not necessarily the full in-depth history review of every site, but having done more research and having a little bit more time to look at these and hopefully even narrow it down further. My intention this summer is to put out the Upland Services bid, as we're required to, because there are no more renewals with the existing contract or consultant, Estero Bay Hotel. So in preparation of that, trying to narrow this list down even further gives us a little bit of time this summer to get further information and then bring it back to town council sometime in August.
Can I jump in with your bid process there, because that was one thing we discussed at our last meeting, and to find out, because Greg said he would be available to see if he could join by Zoom. Do you find that out?
As long as we have quorum physically, we can either via telephone or Zoom. Honestly, I probably wouldn't be doing the selection advisory committee until August or September timeframe. So hoping that'll give him enough time to be back. If not, we can always do it by telephone.
I think he's gone till October, probably.
Okay, well, either way, we can do it by telephone.
Should we have a backup person,
That's
physical person?
this
Is anybody
company's
able to
choice.
do that? I mean, I would volunteer, but I couldn't last year, so if Doug can,
Yep,
I live here full-time.
okay, perfect. Well,
just in case.
it's a secondary. I appreciate that.
I could be person.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any questions about site number 1 right now? Understanding that we're just touching the surface right now.
Okay, and that was the possible workforce thing, and it's got 15 parking spots? If they did workforce, how many parking spots would be available for, that was one of the things they were talking about, right?
I
Haven't gotten that far yet.
haven't got that far.
Okay.
Site number 2, moving on, if there are no other questions. Have one, Bob?
Yeah, I actually showed this property a couple of weeks ago. That was interesting. My client and I had to use the hose to get the fleas off of us, and then we had to run to my house and jump in the swimming pool fully clothed. The place is a complete disaster, so I didn't know if the town's thinking about using that existing structure. You might want to have a contractor look at it.
Okay, good to know for that insight.
But ever since, I think, Charlie, nothing has been done to that place.
Oh, my gosh.
I know that
people
there's
living
some zoning issues.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
Doug Ekman, I drove by there myself and there was like 7 cars parked in the yard. Rough.
The middle section is rented right now, and the upper is uninhabitable, and,
Well, the
you know,
property.
you're looking at dirt value, really, and it's a great location, but for anybody else in the mooring field, it's a long ways away, so.
Doug Ekman, I just checked my Google Earth, it's 4,400, it's about 0.8 of a mile to like the center.
Eastfield, it's
pier is-
over 2 miles.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to,
Oh,
make sure you definitely do your due diligence.
That's the plan.
I would suggest that if you're thinking about this, you'd be thinking about just tearing down what's there. Maybe the dock, building a facility similar to what we
You're looking at dirt value.
just look at it as the
Thank you for that.
estate.
Yep,
That's
that
how I would
input.
look at it.
So moving on, site number 2 is the Harbor House option, the condominium. This slide only covers the unit owned by Estero Bay Hotel, which is 825 square feet. I believe, talking with Doug, he did try to carve out additional square footage, and this is based on the memo that he sent to town council 2 Thursdays ago. So town council opted to keep this on the table and to do a little bit more homework into this. So that's still on the table. Next.
So we're not looking at both units anymore, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the council voiced some concern regarding the HOA, the board, and
Is this the unit that Doug owns?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Having some buffer in between the HOA and us, and what options there were, if it's lease to own, if it's renting, if it's what the various options.
We asked Roxanne to comment on kind of like,
Well, basically, the letter that Doug Spear Smith sent to us, he was offering to try to sever this from the condo, that we would buy it, but it wouldn't be under the HOA. I expressed lots of reservations about that because I think you've got to have 100% of the condo owners to agree to that, and I just can't fathom how that would occur. If I had bought a condo in that building, I wouldn't agree to sever part of the building, because then they lose control over what we would do there. So I just don't think it's likely to happen. I keep wanting to take this one off. The town council keeps sort of rejecting it, but then they won't take it off the list. I get very frustrated with them, but I don't think it's a likely possibility.
and that's a big concern still of the
There-
control of
there-
the association
There's
thing.
concerns on so many levels about this site. I just don't see how it could work. But Doug keeps trying to come up with a creative new idea of some way he can sell it to us.
So that's that. If anybody has any other questions regarding that one.
That is not the one that we toured. That's a different one than the one that we were shown.
I'm not sure which one you were shown.
Well, the one
There were
I
two.
looked at,
Was the
like
middle
last
and the
summer,
other side.
it's, the one that we're talking about that Doug owns is the one that's closest to Matanzas.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think that's the one that's shown on this sheet.
Yes, it is.
The one that's shown on the sheet is currently used by, like, Matanzas Restaurant Administration. I've been in it, but I wasn't shown it
Well,
as.
I went in with Doug a couple summers ago or something, and it's the one that he owns.
It'd be a different configuration than what you had drawn up.
Yeah.
With the, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? On. The next one is site number 3. Not sure if you all are privy to this, but the county has 3 parcels on San Carlos Island, this one being one of them. And this one is a boat ramp that is utilized by many agencies, including ourselves. But we were looking at this parcel, and if you flip to the next page, you see an aerial of it. Seeing if we could potentially carve out a small piece towards the back, keeping our footprint as small as possible without impeding access. Understanding that large pieces of equipment are in and out of there. That's the main loading and offloading for construction equipment like the dredging projects and things like that. But also seeing if that's something we could work with Lee County, at the Department of Natural Resources or Parks and Rec, an elevated building with, some storage parking access underneath, or if working with them, if they requested space in that facility, as a partnership, seeing what, if anything, if they'd be open to that conversation. I do know that if you notice, there's, I think Trico is right next door. They have a long-term lease with Lee County for that. Same thing with the front piece, that house or commercial entity up front. They have a long-term agreement with the county. So looking at the different options, either long-term agreement or carve off a piece or purchase, or just putting it out there on the table as a potential option. Of course, that would require Lee County's cooperation, but again, it is something we have identified as on the table, and more research will need to occur.
The mayor is very excited about this one.
Yes. Could I get Bob Beasley?
Why, I don't know.
Bob Beasley to comment on he's expert on San Carlos Island, the environment and what type of industrial or other environment that neighborhood is?
Well, all that property is zoned light industrial. Some of it up by the Main Street Road is zoned for commercial marine, actually. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out, you know, around two big industrial areas. Having guests have to go in between all the heavy equipment and the commercial vessels and everything to go in and out. Not too sure about that.
My point was our long-term plan of having a premier Anchorage area and facilities, just on generalization, it doesn't really fit at all with that type of plan. I've been over there many times before in that area. And the location, the middle of the field is good, but is now the time to comment on this one?
Yeah. That's
But I don't know, you have no trolley service, you have none of the other amenities that go with where we are now. And I'm not sure would at night the dark Bay Oaks would be safer than being down there possibly.
Wash.
To me,
Maybe.
it doesn't make sense because, you know, they're coming to the town of Fort Myers Beach, Anchorage. I think they're expecting to be able to go over somewhere to the beach, you know, at least, I don't know.
That's restrooms and showers.
It doesn't make sense.
That's restrooms and showers where they're taking their backpacks and they're dinging back and forth that area. And I ran my charters out of next door there, and I avoided it at night.
I agree with the remoteness of the place. It seems like this and other options, we still have the dinghy dock underneath the bridge, so that when they're going to town, they can go that way. Question of, so you could split the activities of getting to town and where the showers are, but if the shower's in an area you're scared to go, that's not a very good option, I guess. Just to bring up that the dinghy dock is still accessible for reaching the town, no matter which one of these things we're talking about.
Very industrial.
like I said, there are pros and cons to every site on this list.
Okay.
Any other
I mean,
comments?
You got Kelly Brothers on the other side, and they're heavy duty
Loud.
industrial.
It's very loud, heavy equipment all day long.
Other comments on this site? Moving on. Next one, there are 4 lots directly behind Town Hall here, all owned by the same owner. There's the oddball triangle trapezoid piece, and then there's the 3 finger pieces. This would require purchasing these. I can tell you, like I told council, the 3 finger pieces, they were on the market a little over a year ago, and I believe they were $400,000 each. I know the question came up at council, do we need all 4? Of course, that's going to take some further development. Again, this is the 10,000-foot overview, and we'll delve deeper into reviewing the sites that council narrowed down. Comments on these?
You know how much they're asking for just the one?
I'm not privy to that. It wasn't on the market a little over a year ago. I think Sam and I were looking around too, poking around, seeing if we could find anything. That one we couldn't find, so that'll be a little bit of homework we'd have to do.
Well, they're zoned really differently because the 3 are residential and the 1 is zoned commercial. And so they're zoned differently, and I probably shouldn't comment because they're right across the street from my house, but
You've made a site visit.
I've seen this site before.
What about the ownership of the canal? Is that a problem in this case?
This is not the canal that has been in question.
So the canal is available and
Well, that's the interesting part. We have to do a little bit more research. I think part of some of these pieces are part of the canal. So we'd have to do a little bit more homework on.
we.
Ownership has not been in question of the canal itself.
One thing I wanted to ask about was the parking. Is that just saying that they would make parking out of part of the lots?
Yes, ma'am.
It's possible that 2 of the lots, do your building on the one right behind Town Hall, and possibly give yourself an exemption for parking on the residential one and not put a commercial building on it. Seems like 2 of them would probably be big enough maybe to do what we wanted to do.
I will say that one of the counselors did mention yesterday, if we were to acquire any land, to try to come up with other uses that it could be used for, not just mooring field related, like you mentioned earlier, that the housing, try to think outside the box for other uses. That's something we're also keeping in mind when looking at all of these different sites. Other comments or questions on these? Okay, moving on. The next site is Bay Oaks. And as you know, it's owned by the town. It's in the middle of redevelopment. We're moving towards 100% design. We're still in its early stages, so timing of this will be an issue, and also location. And this is regarding that canal that abuts it is the one that is in question. Again, we'd have to do some more homework on that. I'll tell you guys, like I told council, the backside towards the bay, that's owned by Lee County. But coming north, abutting the canal that's in question, that's right of way in between Bay Oaks property and that canal on right of way. So letting you guys know that there's some constraints there.
Forgot to check and see if that was, I thought one of those had sold, but want me to send you the latest on that, whether they're listed or expired? They had the one closest to Tops for
sure.
sale, and then they had that whole other
Sure.
section that we were looking at that goes out the canal. I forgot to the update on that. I thought, for some reason, I thought it either went pending or sold, but I'll send you the listing on what the status is on that.
I know that there are some underlying issues with that canal that some homework had to have been, has to be done to figure out, so that's part of this whole due diligence process.
I think the big one that we're looking at near Bay Oaks was listed for $79,000.
Any other questions regarding the Bay Oaks one? Bay Oaks site?
Now, there's going to be another presentation on the 7th, is that what you're saying?
That's what we're trying to plan for. If that gives us enough time to do some homework on these, to maybe narrow it down even further. Maybe crossing one completely off the list because of environmental issue, different things like that. So we are doing our homework right now, and then hoping to take it back to the June 7th meeting. But that might not be possible depending on what of our due diligence.
Anybody have any comments?
I have a comment. See while Roger's here. I watched the meeting, and it went on for about an hour, and you discussed all the different ones, and there's pros and cons on them. Not 1 minute, not one time was Bayside Park mentioned. And it makes us feel a little insignificant, even if it's ruled out. We thought, or I think, that it should have been mentioned, especially since it was ruled out. We went around this room during our meeting for the last 2 or 3 meetings saying, please include it, please include it. And for whatever reason, the only reason I ever heard was that it's going to block a view. And in my opinion, the blocking of the view was creating a view. If the building was put back, it wasn't really going to block Nervous Nellies, but I'm not sure why it wasn't even just at least mentioned that that was our suggestion to you as an advisory committee.
If I can comment as a council member, it's been made very clear to me by at least 3 other council members that this is dead. So I didn't bring it up again because,
You've brought it up several times.
yes, they are dead set against it, and we're not changing their minds.
And the only
And
reason,
it really has nothing to do with the view. I'll be
Okay.
blunt, it's pressure from the neighboring property owners. They are bending to them.
well, we own the property, so
Well, but
They do
Okay,
too. The
thank you.
council does too.
that was my, yeah.
Well, you know, it's a shame because when you look at all this, really none of these make. There's one
Really the
place
best
that made sense, and that's to put it in the middle of the commercial area, but obviously that's not gonna happen, so we're down to a bunch of choices that really don't work.
I agree.
Too bad. I don't even know what to say about it, other than, you know, Virginia Street looks interesting, but then again, you know, I thought the town didn't want to bring commercial intrusion into residential areas,
But we got a whole different report on that, though, from the town attorney, who indicated there are legal issues with us building a building on that property. He doesn't
Because of the
believe-
plat.
Yeah, we really don't have the ability to use that property for this use.
Well, then that
Sorry if I
that even
took over
narrows
from
it
you, Roger,
down
but I
worse.
really felt like you didn't have the choice to bring it up. You've been instructed by he's been instructed by the council that it's dead.
I realize that, I just had to,
I
Yeah,
wouldn't,
well, I was gonna take advantage of the question to
Feel free.
make a bigger point. And that is that, town council sets the policy and direction for the staff. People may not realize it or may not like that, but that's the way it is, okay? And when we say to them, here's a location, 3 people support us moving forward in this location, and only 1.5 maybe did, that means that location is dead, unfortunately, until those people change, or they indicate that they've reconsidered. So, I don't necessarily fully disagree with some of the comments that Roxanne made about the location, but, you know, the old rule of government is, can you count to 3, and I can count to 3.
I think, you know, going in the future, for those of us that plan on being here 20 years down the road, we're gonna look back and say, wow, they missed a big opportunity. So,
Well, just thinking
that's
about.
it. I'm done. I've said my piece numerous times. I'm like you. I agree. You're not gonna, you know,
Well-
can't make the horse drink.
I will say that the plan for that all came kind of as a surprise to us, if you remember a little bit. And part of that, I think we have to remember, is it was a different council that came up with that. We have new members on the council now that were not there when that whole design came about. I think there was a more favorable council at that point, which always changes. I will just say, we've been at this for a long time, and we've circled around to all of these things 2, 3, 4 times.
Well, it may end up being a situation if none of these are gonna work out, and I guess ultimately it'll be up to the council to decide, but, you know, my opinion at this point is you might as well just go sign up with Kansas for another term, and maybe the council will change years down the road, and the staff could come back to this and do what probably should have been done the
Well,
first time.
To speak to that, we can't just renew with Matanzas, it has to be bid out. And hoping that Matanzas bids on it and/or anybody else, you know, that
Well,
has viable
that's
sites.
true. Again, that's why we were hoping, I understand, that's why we're hoping to try to get the town their own property so they don't have this issue. Because if somebody gets mad or upset or changes their mind, they have nowhere to go.
And
we
our,
end up
and our
with
agreement,
trailers or whatever.
our agreement with the state is that we, having this mooring field, are required to have, you know, Upland services. So, I will tell you that that was one of the concerns with the expansion, and that they raised the question, you know, contracted service, how does that work? And we reiterated to them, the town has agreed to the terms and conditions of the contract, and that's what we're to hold. So we would come up, we know, staff-wise know that we have to provide showers, laundry, restrooms, garbage, water, part of the upland services of the mooring field. So if that's trailers, if that's, we have to get the council's council's decision on that, but that is a requirement of our agreement with the state.
I was gonna suggest probably the trailers that you just last minute have his plan. Don't get any bids. Quite has a trailer like that. It's not. But, just have that ready, that plan B if you need.
Well, and with that plan B, there's B, C, D, go on, we have fallback plans for this, but that requires procurement, that requires town council approval, and there's lead times, as you all know. Market's hot right now. The lead times on anything is lengthy. I'll tell you the trailers are at least 14 to 16 weeks. So right there, you're talking 3 to 4 months. Time flies by.
I had one more while Roger's here, because in case you guys didn't watch the meeting, maybe you could tell everybody that the money, I don't know, you explained it at the meeting about the money that was going to be the building at Bayside Park is now gone to something at Times Square. Yeah, good, thank you. I didn't think I had it right, but I know it got.
Okay, so with the issue with Times Square is that money we borrowed is tax exempt. And because of that, the bank's attorney's position was the overhang areas that we're planning at Times Square that are for the outdoor seating, there's two direct correlation to the private property. So we had a choice of either created two loans, one for tax exempt or one for non-tax exempt to deal with that issue. Or we could have left the whole loan tax exempt, which is what we ultimately decided, council ultimately decided, and pay for those overhangs out of other town money. The point I was trying to make, and maybe I didn't make it well on Monday, was that by paying for overhangs out of other town money, there's capacity within the loan. Other two projects stay on budget, or other three projects stay on budget, to be able to do something for Upland facility. So theoretically, there's $1 million paper that should be available. Now, that being the case, and as Chelsea walks you through some of these properties, you can hear that $1 million will not get you the land and the building. So, if we do go to one of these options that you all are looking at today, it's what we currently have, bank wouldn't be sufficient.
It would have gotten us Bayside.
That's a correct statement. And to Doug's point, I think the biggest issue, for seeing if we have, it's going to be this idea that, at least right now, based on what I'm seeing, I don't think we're going to be ready for any of these other options. And if the council president to authorize us to go forward to trailers, we may wind up with an empty bucket. So we have to be very careful going forward here. So I think if it's the point that was being made that, look, we're looking at these locations, but by all means, I think your voices are very important to the extent that you feel that not only that they have drawbacks, but they have serious drawbacks. And if that's the case, council may have to look at punting on third down and doing the trailers for a little while till other alternatives come forward. But we'll see what they say, and we'll see what you say today.
So on the, keeping it in the general location where I think best underneath the bridge, what are the issues with the condo other than there's no parking? There were some other issues you mentioned that the council had?
The condo association has shown in the past that they are willing to create rules which impinge upon the abilities of the businesses to operate. They have the majority vote. And that's my biggest fear. That's one of the problems with it. Number two, they told us that we would not be allowed to let the public use the bathrooms.
That's what it was, okay.
And I think that's ridiculous. That, you know, if a family was walking along the street and saw a town property and went up to the door and said, my 5-year-old needs to use the bathroom, we would have to say no. And that would be a black eye for the town of Fort Myers Beach. I just can't imagine.
Well, and that defeats the purpose of having the Upland facility of bathrooms and showers.
Well, the bathrooms would be available to the people in the mooring field. We wouldn't be allowed to let the general public in. And that's their current rule. Right. They have the power to do even more rules. One of the things that they did to the businesses that were already there and owned units, they took away their parking spaces.
And so to clarify that, so when the capacity of the units above was 80% or more, the commercial spaces lost access, which is mainly during season. So, which is seeming like it's turning year round.
I'll give you an example of what they could do by a majority vote. They could pass some rule that makes it impossible to operate as a mooring field. They could say, well, we will no longer allow you to have more than one washing machine in a unit. They could do it. That's how condo boards operate. They have that power.
Doug's idea is to sever that from the association in some fashion.
Yes, but I don't think it's possible.
To be some type of buffer between the town or the tenant, we'll say the tenant, and the HOA.
Kelsey, you did a whole configuration on the other units, you know, with plumbing, you know, you did
It was both the HOA's unit and Sarah Bay Hotel's
which is
unit.
different than what we're looking at now.
Yes, sir.
Is there any preliminary on whether that?
Doug provided a sketch in his memo that, I mean, I don't know who drew that sketch. Of course, we would have to have an engineer look at it. But for any efficiencies that we could try to save, having bathrooms and showers back to back, plumbing, things like that. But that's part of our due diligence that we have to look at here in the next week or so.
A rough look, did it look like it would accommodate similar?
It may not accommodate as many as we'd like, as was proposed in the first go around.
More than we have now.
Yes, ma'am.
Expanding the board.
Right. Well, and that's been the thought, because we don't have enough really now. And so, well, and this is essentially the unit a couple of years ago that he was talking about too, and he did sketches at that time too, and
I'll forward that memo that he sent to town council.
yeah, I think I got it, but I don't think the rest of the,
I'll forward that along to everyone.
and you're still kind of looking at what this would be.
Yes, town council kept the condo option on the list.
Well, unfortunately, that's the location that's the best. I mean, I think we still need to, I mean, we're going out for bid, and that may be what we're going to have. I'm hoping we have somebody bid, because I think I said it last time, and I still think that trailers are my absolute last resort option, but I would much rather stay with Matanzas and to do that kind of thing. So, and, you know, we don't have real good options here. You know, through the due diligence, we may find one of them will be better than we think it's going to be, and I'm hopeful.
Well, and I'm looking to you all too for that assistance. If, you know, you're weigh in on the pros and cons of each, of providing feedback, and, you know, potentially rank them on you know, as a committee. How do you see them? Where do you see on how it ranks, which is the most viable? We all know that there are pros and cons to every site.
Add a comment regardless. Cracks up with Matan. Have enough time to develop any of these.
Believe it expires, I think, end of November, maybe December 1st.
It's either November 1st or December 1st.
If there was a site. Clearing the property, going.
Well, they've pretty much always been the only bidder anyway.
A lot of options.
I had a chance to talk to some of the people on the mooring field, right, you know, under the bridge there, talking to them, and biggest highlight they had, none of them had cars. They were all just on their boats and their dinghies. Was the fact that from that location, right in front of Nervous Nellie's there, they could take the trolley grocery store. They could also take the trolley from right in that area to go into town to Walmart, or if they had to go downtown. That was that some of these other locations that aren't central don't offer the transportation. And I've ridden the trolley before, and if you have to switch to go to town as opposed to up and down the beach, it's really a long wait, especially during the limited hours in the summertime. That was one of the highlights of being in that central location, was they could jump on a trolley for $1 and pretty much go anywhere.
Just a thought, they can still do that because the dinghy dock is there. It's just that it's separated from the restrooms and
That's true.
showers.
That's true.
Yeah, we're in a different place than we were when the mooring field first opened. That when we had our provider over at Salty Sam's, we didn't have a dinghy dock here. So it is a different
That's true.
time
Good
because
point,
we
Ted.
still have that. I still find, you know, and I've said it before, if we would do something at Bay Oaks or even over here, which, you know, it's a one-stop shop where it is now, because you've got restaurants, you've got shops, you've got transportation, you've got the showers, the laundry, all right there, whereas you're separating those things. And, you know, I think about working on my boat all day, and 10 o'clock I want to get a shower and I want to get a burger. I got to go to 2 different places. And, you know, where we are now has one place. It's in one location. But, you know, we don't have a lot of options, so, you know, as far as what we have available, I like the centrally located one. There's lots of problems there's problems and challenges with all of them, certainly. So, I don't know what that means for us. You want us to somehow communicate to you a list of where we think, you know, priorities? I don't know that there's really anything
Well, is there any discussion here as a
as a
committee?
recommendation.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have one at this point. Other than we need to negotiate with, obviously, we're doing the Upland Service bid, which we need to do. And I think that's our option at the moment, frankly. We have a bidder.
I may, all of these facilities, I think. Maintain the, although it is like could be that or facility.
One thing that site does have is transportation. Trolley does go there, at least. But it does go up
And
there.
a $2 million price tag before you even start.
That's a real downside of that.
You have to be looking.
I will say, though, that's one thing I said to the town council when they eliminated
Yes.
the Bayside Park option. I said, then you guys have to be ready to spend some money. So I will keep repeating that to them
Please.
when
Please,
when the
please
options come up.
Emphasize everything we've said in the last 3 or 4 meetings. I know it's hard because it's like.
Well, you guys are kind of all over the place the way they are, too. I'd love to hear you guys say, these are our top 2, for example.
You know, like Sam goal to have a first class facility. I think the only one of these sites that has developed into a have that potential premium facility.
Wondering if that's the group's feeling, and we should make that recommendation.
I think, like Roxanne said, helpful on my side, at least because we haven't started to dig into this, having like having a 1, 2, 3 type suggestion, because we may get digging into some of these and it might be a moot point.
I agree with that. I think the price tag is really high. I mean, I agree, it's a nice property. I think it's a lot of money. Harbor House still is, from the point of view, me, is centrally located on, with a lot of advantages, but it has the disadvantages of even another layer of the condo thing now, it appears, which is not necessarily a good one. Bay Oaks probably, well, the site over in San Carlos and Bay Oaks to me are really not viable. I had some discussions, I think, with Chelsea maybe about just the one property behind Town Hall. There are advantages to that because it's right next door to Town Hall. With some administrative office type things, because it's right here, but I don't know how viable that is on that property. I don't know, I'm kind of all over the place with it too. I don't.
Well, if the,
Yes.
go ahead.
Could we?
My response about the high price tag for option 1 is that we need to look at this the way the fire department looked at the tops. They're not going to use all that.
Okay.
We might not use all that for this purpose.
For
But we
something
have
else.
need for, as a
Land.
town, for other things. So I don't think you should look at it in isolation as just the mooring field location. You all probably experience the fact that sometimes you have trouble getting a parking space when you come to Town Hall. We have need to store other things. We have need maybe for other office space. It could be used for a myriad of possibilities. Like I said, the fire department overspent on tops because they knew they didn't need all that property, but they knew there were other things they could do with it. It's a valuable thing to own.
Well, if you look at it that way, that's a good spot.
I would suggest the town look at it for the investment potential, revenue potential. An expanded, you get revenue from the, say the debt service. Get it like a business. Yeah, it's expensive. Maybe there's more.
We rank them in order of attractiveness and drop the funding question to the council, saying we would, if we had our best thing, we'd like this one number one, and this one number two, and this one number three.
That's probably helpful
And let
too,
them figure
yeah.
out what the funding situation is.
Honestly, any input
I
at this
think I
point
can-
helps me.
I can say that, based on what our choices are, I don't really like any of them, but based on what we've got, I would say the one next to Pink Shell. If the condo thing could be worked out, obviously, keeping it under the bridge, and if not, I guess you have to look at Virginia. That's about the only.
Virginia's
three.
Virginia's
not
not
on
on
it.
the list.
Oh,
We've already
that's
said
off.
no.
It's
Okay,
off.
well, then I guess down to maybe two choices. Opinion.
I agree with 1 and 2 as being my top two as far as those. If we go farther than that,
A
Why?
question for Chelsea on number one, Pink Shell. Kind of figured 15 parking spaces the way it is right now, right? Is that, you're talking about like 15, but if we were to raise it and build something new or something there, that would open up the whole footprint of the building for either parking or some other,
We would be required to meet current flood zone standards, and which may require elevation of the entire building.
that may be another several parking spaces or something useful for our
Potentially
equipment
storage
underneath.
parking access.
And if you do employee housing there, you're gonna have so many applications for people wanting to work for this town.
okay, I'm gonna throw this out. This is my ranking of it, see what you guys think. 1, 2, 5, 7, 3.
I would agree with number 3 being the last one, even though it's the mayor's first choice. It's, I usually agree with him on most things, but I would have to totally disagree with him on
Okay,
that.
so you
But
would say 5 and 7 could be interchangeable of third or fourth.
I would say number 3 definitely last.
Okay,
5 and 7 are not too
kind of
different.
interchangeable. Okay,
Yes.
Either one may work for a very
okay,
So I have site number 1, which is up the north end of the island, Pink Shell site. Number 2 is the condo. 5 and 7, which are the sites behind Town Hall and Bay Oaks, as interchangeable as number 3. And then last would be the San Carlos Maritime Park on San Carlos Island site, the
my-
county's parcel.
my movement of ranking.
would second that.
Discussion? All in favor
Aye.
of, of the worst, of the best of the worst, or whatever? And we have the knowledge that we're gonna go out for bid.
That is happening, yes.
Okay. That gives you any help, I hope.
That helps.
I plan to come to that, I'll keep in touch with you about if that meeting's gonna happen on the 7th, because I can come if it does. If that's any help, I don't know that it will be, but,
I'll send you an update on the canal
Okay,
availability.
thank you.
any more, on this? Strategic plan review, communication plan. Did read through all that. Again, I think, as I've said before, we're kind of, on some of the things, we're kind of on hold till some of these decisions are made. One question I had, though, and maybe I've asked this before, but I didn't write down the answer. It was on page 3, number 12, under long-term goals of growth and capacity. I probably asked this before and I don't remember the answer. Investigate feasibility of adding an Anchorage area.
That was, years ago, the committee was looking at the north end of the island, the expansion area. Like
Okay.
that special designated Anchorage area. I think that's
No,
what-
that's number 13. Is it the designated federal Anchorage area?
Does this have to do with, we were in limbo of actually putting balls in or just regulating the Anchorage area when we got control of it?
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's kind of moot now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any update on the designated federal Anchorage area?
Ma'am.
Anybody else have anything to discuss yet? Member items and reports. Bob, do you have anything? No. Pam?
Nothing.
Ma'am.
I have one item.
Yes.
We're in preliminary budget, and I have to provide the town manager my add-on list. I plugged in because it was due yesterday, but I'm bringing it to your attention today because I do have the chance to update it. If the committee has any need for any funding for any programs or, Cruises Appreciation Day, I plugged in $2,500. I know that like some of the little giveaway keychains and little things like knickknacks that we had in the past are kind of a little dated. So, and then also talking with our PIO and maybe some like Murph did with the canvas bags, the reusable bags, and like supporting the Fort Myers Beach mooring field with some advertising and things like that on there. I put in 2,500. If that's too much or too less, I look to this committee for some comments or insight.
I think
Probably-
we're planning on having our party
I
next
hope
year.
so, yeah.
So we're planning now to have it.
Yeah, so we always have needs for that. And are we going to continue advertising
But yes,
what we are doing? And that's part of that.
status quo from this current year is what we've been told. So I'll be putting in everything that I normally put in for the
Is that part of the 2,500?
No, ma'am.
Because it used to be.
Well, and with the rebranding and the need and having DACWA, it'll be a year come October. I think there's some opportunities there, but there's definitely Randy is really creative in that sense. So some opportunities. Like I said, some of the swag items for the Cruisers Appreciation Day we need to get updated, little things like that. And then, of course, if there's other advertising avenues that you come across, let us know. We could use that for that as well.
I think 2,500 sounds pretty good. I mean, because we used to get about that, and then we didn't get, we didn't get anything. It's sort of like we had to ask for stuff, so that's probably...
The only thing is I have to specify on there, so like I was doing with the Public Safety Committee, some advertising, the Cruisers Appreciation Day.
On Cruisers Appreciation Day, because the way we've done it, if we do it again the same way, which I would assume we are, we pay for half of the dinner, and then we update the sign, and we do the swag. It generally costs us money, so. I guess the one thing still, I know we got a partial budget thing from financial and everything, or overall view of last year and all of that, and we have a new guy, right? So still would like a finished one for, I guess, the last fiscal year sometime?
I believe they're trying to wrap up audit right now, so as soon as I get my hands on that, I'll be sure to try to pass along whatever information I can. Fortunately, I don't have to reach out to them for your occupancy, Ted. I can run a quick report in DACWA.
That's a good thing.
So, thank you for keeping me in line with that.
Now, he's interim, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So are they interviewing, are they wanting to have, you don't know?
His contract was just renewed, so I don't know.
Okay.
We have had some, we have a new accounting manager. She's getting her feet wet. So they're going through some growing pains.
Okay,
But I'll do the best I can with what information I have.
gotcha. All right. Public comment, we have none. As far as our next meeting, usually we've taken off June, July, and August.
I was gonna say, if you are having a meeting, I won't be able to make it, I'm gonna be gone.
I don't know that I don't know what to say about this, because we're kind of going with this stuff, but there's
It's up to the committee. Now, if you opt not to have, no, we have to have quorum in order to meet and make decisions. But if you opt not to have meetings this summer, I can provide, just like we do with town council, our monthly report, provide updates to you all, maybe once a month via email. And then if you have questions, you can contact me directly. If that's the path you choose to proceed, you know, we're still going to be, summertime is when we do the majority of our projects. But of course, as the monthly reports go out, you can see what, you know, what we're up to in there. But I'd be more than happy to send out an email to the committee with just a brief update if you choose not to meet this summer.
But we haven't. I'm not sure meeting is going to really,
So we've kind of given our opinion on
on
Upland
this.
Circle. And as far as the bidding goes out, that's already, you're going to put that in motion, right, Chelsea? There's nothing we need to do
And we've
for that.
already, Greg said he would be on the committee, and if he's not able to, Doug has said that he will, so we've set that up as far as that goes. And, you know, anybody can email Chelsea with any concerns
Questions or-
about, from the monthly reports. And I guess if we really feel, if there's something really, really that we need to, we can always call one if we can get a quorum.
I need a week's notice. I have to put the agenda out a week in advance.
Right.
But yes,
If there's something that really comes up that we really feel we need to address, I'm going to be here most of the summer. We're
I'll be
hoping to
here.
take a road trip, but
Could have a team meeting or something.
we can have, we can always call one if there's something that we need to do.
An added bit of information for you all to keep in touch over the summer. Jennifer Dexter, who is our PIO, sends out an email with a summary of everything, every action that the town council has taken after the meetings. If you contact her, she can put you on that email list where you get those updates from her.
And this
Also
is
put
after the
stuff out on Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of stuff, but there is a specific town council summary that she puts out. It's usually within 48 hours of a meeting.
Town council, June 7th is their last meeting. They're taking off the rest of June and July, so they'll reconvene in August.
Then we get deep into budget things and really don't accomplish much else unless it has to be done.
Well, and you're not going to be making any decisions about this then.
Well,
is what it sounds like.
this I would say is something that has to move forward, so I think it's going to stay on the agenda.
Okay,
But
okay.
I do think it's a good idea to, you know, if you want Jennifer's email address, let me know. I'll send it to you,
Send it
or
to me.
Chelsea could send it to you.
I would like to do that.
I would too, probably.
Maybe Chelsea can send it to us.
Yeah, I think I'll send you guys how to register for those email blasts.
Yeah, that'd be good.
She does
So,
a really good job.
yeah, I would say our next meeting is going to be September then,
So let me
unless we
give a
need
date on
to.
that.
September,
September 15th.
So
Wednesday.
just so you know, the month of September is normally odd because we have to, with budget times and moving dates and all of the governmental entities fighting for airtime and things like that. So as of right now, it's for the 15th. If that changes, of course, I will let you all know. Town council takes precedence. So if they give
I mean,
us
as
the,
far as our spot.
yep, if they give us the boot, then they've done that for my public safety
Yes.
committee. So
We've had it done to us too before.
Council,
Right.
when the council hears budgetary items, we cannot be having a meeting at the same time as certain other entities. And so we don't have any choice about moving our meetings sometimes. Plus, the law says that for certain things, it has to be after 5 o'clock in the evening. So we have lots of other things that go on in September, and it's not under our control either.
All right.
you have my contact information. If anything comes up this summer, of course, I'll be in contact with the committee, and vice versa. Don't hesitate to give me a call, shoot me an email. Austin and I will be working diligently on all of our fun projects that we have going on. And of course, as soon as I hear from DEP, you'll get an all caps exclamation, excited email from me. Holy cow, it's taken us 2 years, but we got it, so.
Wonderful. All right, well, everybody have a good summer. Is there a move to adjourn?
Bob Beasley, move to adjourn.
Ew.
A second. All in favor?
Safe travels if you're traveling.
Congratulations, Captain Austin. Good job, man. You can run that big boat now.
Did they still have a question about storm oil on the test? Do you
Storm
remember?
oil, I don't recall that.
Not
They
spreading
said
storm.
they redid the whole thing's been.
Break
I
your
looked
wake,
at that and I
break
said,
your
"What-
wake."
What is that?
Have a non-hurricane
be in
summer.
touch.
I want to recognize Austin for recognizing me in the middle of the